Welcome to ET with GOTB at Euro2025, Day 3. Let's get into it. I'm Rachel.
I'm Sophie.
And this is Extra Time with Girls on the Ball. Well, I'm delighted to report that we are not coming to you from a car park this evening, which I'm very pleased about.
I'm not. I'm very disappointed. This is less fun.
I'm sorry to those of you who might be disappointed about that. We had the 6 p.m. game over in Geneva today, which is a 3-hour drive. So we are back here recording at our Airbnb at the very early time of 1 a.m., which I think would have been worse if we'd had to hang around in Geneva, especially given where we ended up parking. So I've no doubt that we will be back in a car park by tomorrow, probably. So fear not.
So, this is definitely less fun.
Right. Well, I'm very comfortable. Day 3, the turn of Group of Death 2, Group C, which is Germany, Sweden, Denmark, and Poland. We were in bed very late last night. We were up very early this morning. Started off with BBC Radio 5 Live in Zurich in the city centre. And then we both got back for our respective podcasts, Upfront and The Guardian, so do check those out if you're looking for more things to listen to. Then I ended up back on Radio 5 Live again, kind of unexpectedly. I got a phone call, kind of missed half of what the explanation was. It was basically told they needed another guest for a segment. So I ended up back on that again, and then we interviewed a former Lioness, which you will find out more about as the tournament goes on. And then we were in the car on our way to Geneva, where we pit stopped just outside the stadium to do Channel 5 News in a very hot car.
I forgot that was today.
Yeah, it's been a really long day. And then we drove around hopelessly looking for parking. And
then we found it, so it was all good.
We did have a bit of a panic during the game that the car might not be there when we got back, but it was. And it's also why we didn't record there. It was a bit too open and in the public, wasn't it? And we wanted to get on the road and we wanted to listen to the Germany-Poland game. So we had a slightly different intake of that game through our ears rather than actually watching it, although we've caught the highlights. So let's start then. Long story short, we went to see Denmark, Sweden in Geneva.
You went on a bit of a ramble there, didn't you?
I did. And it ended Denmark 0, Sweden 1 with Philip Angeldal getting the goal. It didn't really live up to the excitement that I was hoping it would. A combination, I think, of Denmark being quite compact defensively and Sweden not really taking their chances.
To be exciting?
Well, it was 6-1 the last time out.
I mean,
normally it's like 2-1
no offense to either side, but they're not the biggest scorers.
Also, it's a bit of a derby.
Other than that 6-1 thing, Sweden don't score many goals.
I expected more. It was a.
I thought the first 10 minutes was brilliant. It was great. End to end. I think they expended all of their energy in the heat wave in that 10 minutes, and then it sort of just tapered off a bit. I think actually Denmark did really, really well. Because in that game in June, when they got beaten so heavily, they were just like they cut apart defensively. The Sweden were exploiting that ball in behind all the time, or the space in behind anyway, all the time. And they really kind of cut that out this time around, I think. They were really, really diligent in marking their opponents.
Disciplined.
I think Sweden had the most joy down the right-hand side with Johanna Wrighting-Kanerud. Being marked by Katrine Verhey. I think that's where they had more space and more opportunities. But I would say equally the same with Denmark's right side. I thought they had a lot of space down there too. So they kind of matched up in the first half, even though Sweden controlled the ball.
Yeah.
I think in the second half...
There was one shot on target at halftime.
Yeah. Brilliant shot. Brilliant save.
Oh, unbelievable shot. Unbelievable save. But that was it.
Yeah. And then in the second half, I do think Sweden upped it a level. I think the goal was a really nice example of what they can do when they put their mind to it in terms of the creative play. The 1-2 with Aslani and Angeldal before the finish was really nice, and she took it really, really well. So, it shows what they could do, and they really, really should have won it by more after that point. Stina Blackstenius had a shot cleared off the line, as did Philippa Angeldal, I think. Yonogi sent a header wide from a free unmarked position at the far post. And then Rebecca Blomqvist came on and also had a shot cleared off the line.
Yeah, so. I think as well, JRK, if again, she was a bit more clinical when she actually got the box, it could have been different as well. But a kind of frustrating game to watch at times. And I think our kind of somewhat humorous punt that Stina might take that Champions League form and kind of become Golden Boot winner. It wasn't to be today.
But I do think Denmark showed that they could
frustrate,
and actually they finished pretty strongly.
Yes.
Pernille hit the bar, and she, like, you could just tell by the look on her face, she thought it was went in. She'd beaten the keeper. She'd done everything she had to do, and then it just crashed off the top of the crossbar. And that was their moment of magic, as it were. And it kind of sparked them into life in that final 10 minutes or so.
It did, but it also could have been, the opportunities. If Sweden could have allowed Denmark back into that, and God, they would have ruined them opportunities. Yeah. I found the second half a little bit bitty, a little bit scrappy. Everything was a foul, and injuries, and water breaks, and it just never felt like the game really got going after that first 10 minutes.
Has there been a second half in this championship so far that's been good?
Well, actually, I hadn't thought about it like that. No, I guess. Actually, the second half of the Italy-Belgium game was, I know there wasn't goals, but Italy had more chances.
It was scrappy.
Okay, fine. But I don't know what the point is you're proving.
No, my point is I was just thinking about whether it's the heat or something, where they just kind of go all out in the first half and can't quite keep it up. Or when a team gets ahead, they are quite happy to disrupt the game.
Which can be dangerous.
Which
can be dangerous.
Yeah, it's dangerous, but if they're willing to hold on to that kind of 1-goal lead and make it a bit more scrappy, that might be why.
I had a terrible day at the office. It was one of those days where I didn't have a lot of action on my end. I had a half sun, half shade, which was not something I'd thought about when it came to 6 p.m. kickoffs, was that the sun was still very much going to be impacting the pitch. And of course, you don't know the grounds, you don't know which angle they are when you pick your end, so you don't really know whether you're going to be in the sun or the shade. I came out to a 3/4 pitch in blistering sunshine, and I thought, my poor Irish skin. And when I got round to my seat, I was mercifully in the shade, but it did make my job very difficult today, and I really struggled with when you're shooting across into sun while most of you is in shade, really tricky, kind of manipulating your settings as the day went on, and I just didn't get a lot of action down my end. So
conversely, I had a really good day.
Great.
I filed my match report 20 seconds after the final whistle. I was like, I'm never that quick. I'm like a few minutes afterwards. I had everything prepared, written, all good. I'd done the full-time Instagram thing. My only problem was getting lost in the stadium beforehand due to lack of signage.
Brilliant. Yes, that was annoying, even though I sent her a very detailed voice note as to how to get into the media room, and she chose to ask somebody else and they told her something different and she got lost. So lesson learned there. Anyway, what I was trying to say about my shooting is A, don't expect loads of excellent photos from this game, and B, I had to remind myself that at major tournaments I tend to have shit days, and I also have good days.
Well, what did I say? You're shooting your team every day.
Yeah.
Like, one of those days, 2 of those days are going to be bad days.
Yes.
So
yeah, and the Spain one wasn't great either because I missed 4 goals. But listen, we move, we live and learn. So upshot, I think Sweden deserved winners. Didn't really set the world alight with their performance. Will need to improve and be more clinical in front of goal, particularly against Germany. And from what we've seen of Poland, they'll be tricky to break down too and dangerous on the counter-attack. Denmark, definitely an improvement from their 6-1 drubbing. Could cause teams problems defensively, but again, they need to create more. So
I think Sweden have Poland next, and while Poland were really good at times today, I think they will eye that as a real opportunity to go 6 points up and pretty much have their foot in the door of the knockout stages. So this opening is a bit like with Belgium-Italy yesterday. Was that yesterday? Yes. It was you just needed to get over the line. You just needed the win. You needed the victory. And that sets you off on the right foot, because now you're looking at Denmark and going, well, they play Germany next. Yikes. And then it might come down to the final game against Poland, which is tricky.
I feel for Denmark. They had Germany, Spain in the last Euros. Yeah. You just, honest to God, you just be like, come on. Speaking of Germany, they beat Poland 2-0 with Julebrand and Lea Schuler getting the goals. Over in St. Gallen, debutants Poland absolutely did themselves very proud with their debut in the European Championships against an 8-time European Championship winner. Really interesting listening to it on the radio as well. We got some nice little nuggets and stats and facts and stuff like that. And you could kind of, I was going to say feel the excitement actually. I found the lead commentator never really seemed prepared for the goals. He'd just be in the middle of the sentence, like, oh my God, a goal! And there was no kind of like build up or like lead up or suddenly we're going to, is it maybe? There was a lot of that for Eva Pyre, where she had a number of opportunities and you really felt like, oh my God, is this going to be the goal? But for Germany, it just always seemed to be in the middle of a sentence. And suddenly there was a goal. And you didn't really have that kind of build up. But enjoyed listening to it. I thought, from the sounds of it, Germany kind of struggled a little bit in the beginning. They were creating chances. They weren't being efficient, particularly efficient in front of goal, and being caught out by Eva Pyre. I think Poland were quite brave in the way that they played.
I think Poland had a game plan and they stuck to it really well, especially in the first half. And they really disrupted Germany. They kind of pressured them when they were trying to pass out from the back. That caused problems. There was a bit of a mad moment from AKB, who had a brilliant game, pretty much. I think she was one of Germany's best players, but she did have that mad moment in the first half. She always has one here and there. And then I think, having a striker like Payot in the box who you can name things for, when you are the underdog or the minnow in the tournament, when you are you're having your first championship, having that striker is absolutely key. And I know she wasn't on song today, and you would normally expect her to put away at least one or two of those chances. But the fact that you can aim at her is really crucial. It gives you an outlet. It gives you somewhere to go. Whereas I think I don't know what will happen today between the Netherlands and Wales. But when I look at Wales don't have that outlook to aim for, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
So I think that's the difference, where you can have a real game plan to take it to the opposition.
So I spoke about this on Upfront, and I was likening it to a Portugal who were not defensively disciplined. I think Poland very much were, and the difference was their decision making when they did get up front was naive and just poor execution and not making the right decisions. And we discussed Poland, and I said what excited me about Poland was that if they can be compact and resolute defensively, they've got a very, very, very good striker to aim for, who's been in those big moments and those big pressure moments. And look, today, any other day, she probably would have put 2 or 3 of those chances away. Created plenty.
Save by Berger and Katrin.
Yeah.
That was just destined for the back of the net, wasn't it? And it was a brilliant save.
And what was really interesting as well is the commentators were discussing some of Germany's best players on the day and had to list AKB. So even though they won the game 2-0, and Katrin Berger had a very, very good and a very important performance. And I think actually looking at that game showed that Germany can be got at. And I guess your Swedens and your Denmarks are going to be looking at that. The very sad thing was seeing Julia Gwynn go off in the first half. The new captain, they'd spoken a lot about the injuries she's gone through at such a young age, ACLs in both knees. And she went down initially, seemed to get back up to her feet, and then she'd only just come back on from the sidelines and she went down again in floods of tears. It's an awful thing to see.
She definitely thinks her tournament is over.
I hope it's not.
Christian Vuk was like, we'll have to see. I'm not going to say anything because we have to see the scans tomorrow, and I'm not going to think about it. But yeah, it didn't look great. And when a player reacts like that, they know their body better than anyone, and you just know by the body language what they think it might be.
Yeah, so here's hoping it's not any particular letters. Hopefully it's not tournament ending, and that we get to see Julia back on the pitch. She is such a key player to that team. Let's very briefly touch on your player to watch in Group C, Euler Brand, scoring an absolute pile driver of a worldie.
So good.
We actually heard the net on the radio.
Yeah.
And I heard the rush of the net, and then the commentator reacted and told us it was a goal. So that tells you how hard that ball was hit into the back of the net. Yeah. Incredible shot.
Yeah, no, really, really good. And that's what the kind of quality that she has, that she brings to German side, but also just generally with her game.
But assisted the second goal as well, right?
But she really kind of needed that kind of moment of just pure brute force / magic.
Pick it up by the scruff of the neck.
Because it was that kind of game, the way it was going, things weren't going Germany's way. They were missing kind of really key chances, easy chances. So you just kind of needed someone to just pull something out of nowhere, pull a rabbit out of a hat. And that kind of got them flowing a bit more.
It lit them up a bit. It took the pressure off a little bit.
Yeah, they could relax a bit more. They were no longer, maybe we're going to concede against Poland. We've got a foot up here. We can put our foot on the gas, and we can feel a bit more easy about things compared to when you're at 0-0 and anything can happen.
Absolutely. Well, an excellent showing from Poland. I think they can be very proud. I really hoped they'd get a goal. They sounded like they absolutely created enough to do so. So maybe we'll see that in the group stages against another opposition. Germany, I think, will need to be more clinical against better teams. On her day, Eva Power could have made Germany rue those missed opportunities.
Wasn't it the commentator was saying when Nuskin missed her chance?
Oh.
And she ended up in the back of the net, but the ball didn't.
Yeah. And there was two of them. There was two shots like almost back to back where it was, I think it was Rachel Corsie saying they were harder to miss than they were to score. And it was those moments where you're kind of like, Jesus, like if Poland get one now, this could be a very interesting game. So I think, Poland really showed what they could do on this stage, which is very exciting. I think it will, I wouldn't say scare Sweden or Denmark, but it will definitely make them know that they'll have a game on their hands, and I hope they can sustain that level.
Against complacency, I think.
Exactly. So it means Group C, Germany and Sweden are both on top with 3 points. Denmark and Poland are on 0. Sweden face Poland next, and Germany face Denmark. Tomorrow, of course, both Wales and England finally kick off their campaign against the Netherlands and France, respectively. Group D finally getting underway. We will be here in Zurich for the late kickoff between the Lionesses and France. Delighted. We literally have to drive about 3 or 4 miles down the road, and we have parking. So it's going to be a good day tomorrow.
And we have a car park.
And we have a car park. Okay, we have a car park pod. Yay. So that's something else that you guys can look forward to. I'm excited to obviously see both Wales and the Lionesses kick off. And I'm also excited to have seen every team then play and kind of get a bit of a feel for the competition and where teams are and how they've turned up and stuff like that. I like this stage of the kind of round one of games. So
I'm also excited to have a lion.
I'm excited to have a lion. We don't have to get up at 7 o'clock. It's going to be great. It's going to be brilliant. Right, we're looking forward to that. That is everything from day 3. We'll have lots of content coming out tomorrow as well, so make sure you're following us there. And we'll be back again for day 4's roundup. We'll chat to you then.